We are using various techniques and technologies, and we are trying to measure what is not working and what is working in the programs. The major way of doing this is we have put across a team which focuses on the measurement part to a very large extent. We did something very interesting this year. We did a study called the Social Return on Investment, or the SROI study, which focused on how much rupees you have spent and what is the return on investment on the nutrition program. We have spent 1 rupee, it is fetching us rupees 36 actually as a return on investment. And mind it, it's not just the notional value, it's the real return on investment which is done in the financial framework. But it is much beyond that, I must say that. Like, the level of trust in the communities has increased many folds. The responsiveness of the moms towards the kids for the early care of the kids has increased. It's very interesting to share something with you, like around 80% of the frontline health workers, when we reached out to the moms, they responded like 80% of the frontline health workers have really changed the way they take care of the kids. So we really want to up our game in the years to come in terms of our last mile strengthening. A major insight from monitoring, learning and evaluation data. We need to invest regularly in the monitoring, learning and evaluation. We need to continue that, and we need to further strengthen that. That is the mantra which I would like to give through through your program. In terms of our last mile strengthening, a major insight comes from the monitoring, learning and evaluation processes, and using the wider techniques and technologies. But we had to maintain the social distancing. We had to wear the mask, and we had to do the hand wash. So the programs have actually gone beyond just nutrition for us. The programs have moved towards an integration of hygiene along with nutrition. So what we see is, like, we will further strengthen the program based on the research outcomes and the techniques which we are using. One more interesting insight I would like to share is that we have seen the studies in the earlier decades starting from the year 2000 to 2018, and now we are in the year 2020. There is a major gap in the nutrition program done in India especially. One of the gap is that these are standalone programs. When we talk about nutrition outcomes, they need to be a holistic and integrated approach. The program has to do more about hand washing, the hygiene factor, the health outcomes. It should direct every one of us towards poverty elevation and poverty reduction. This is possible when we use project modeling, modern day techniques to assess what is happening in the program, and that gives you a proper direction, what has worked well and what has not. Loosely, a lot of people have, in various journals and other places, we see there is a design gap, what communities need and what is offered to them. But that is a big statement and a loaded statement. So what we did different through our monitoring, learning and evaluation programs, processes, is like reinvesting in the ethnographic studies. We lived with the communities. We understood the communities. We also realized that other programs try to import people from the cities and small cities. They become champions and they do the work, but there is always a limitation in this. So why not to empower? Why not to give the access at the last mile? Why not to give nutrition as a right to the people who are hyper local, and designing the programs which are hyper local solutions, and not the programs which are just cut, copy, pasted from somewhere and we derive it on the ground. Like Government of Odisha has very beautifully led the plans on nutrition by putting part of their budgets to the nutrition. All this comes with the monitoring, evaluation and the learning methodologies which India is evolving with, and people like us are using. And I always say that we are all small fish in the game, but definitely it's always a push that matters the most. I would like to say, use it or lose it. So if you don't use the data, then you will be using on the time, you will be losing on the resources, you are losing on the responsiveness, and access becomes a dream to the communities. So if you like to give early access to the communities and see health is a basic right, nutrition is a basic right, and hygiene is a basic right, we need to move faster, and we have miles and miles to go, and we need to move at a very, very fast pace. About the India's independence, and still like we top on the charts for the malnutrition. So one of the significant reasons is basically, as we know, like India has many small Indias, or we can say India has a portion of Bharats, and in Bharats also then we have the tribal populations in the tribal belts, and then further there is a big demographic divide between, the quintiles of the population. There is a big divide between the kind of people in terms of culture, subculture, ethnicity. So it's very important, like, all these things to consider when we do the national level programming, which are being made from one program to another program to the third program. We have done an analysis of the last decades and through the meta-analysis of the program, and what we saw was, so policy shifts are very, very quick. So all public health programming and the nutrition outcomes and the poverty reduction strategy papers, they take certain time. There needs to be an approach which needs to be used. There needs to be time which needs to be given to that. There should not be the quick gear shifts between the things. And on the top of that, there are different needs of the different kind of populations. India has done, the polio program very, very nicely. India has eradicated smallpox long back. So we have two wonderful examples, like how India has worked upon the national health programs. So we need to have some learnings from these programs, as well as for the NACO's AIDS control program, where they started the targeted interventions. So focus on the populations which have the high mortality, high morbidity, work on those places which are the hot spots. We need to understand which spots are hot, which are moderately hot, which are low hot, and which are which needs super more attention. Then there are certain population groups which needs attention in terms of the underserved strategy. So there are populations which are migratory in nature, so we need to look into that. We need to invest significantly on research to understand the problem statement better. So if all this is taken care well, I am very, very sure like India will be moving much ahead on the SDG phenomena and the SDG goals. And it needs a big Jan Andolan, where there needs to be the public-private partnership, as well as there needs to be the champions who have taken care of the communities at large on malnutrition. Those stories need to be told more. We need to bring more mothers together who have benefited from the program, so that a whole chain can be created, and those who are the positive beneficiaries of the program can talk more about their experience. There needs to be more experiential learning, and we need to have more structured and more robust voluntary village health and nutrition days and sanitation days. So we need to invest more on the people, we need to invest more on the trainings, we need to invest more on the right programming, as well as we need to invest significantly more on bringing technology on board. So many times the better technology can help us to early identification of the SAM and the MAM kids, and as a result of that there will be early referrals. The early referrals will result into the early treatment seeking behavior. With the early treatment seeking behavior, what will happen is like the stay of the child will be for 14 to 15 days as prescribed by the doctors in the nutrition rehabilitation centers. So those children, when they get better, their parents will be the positive champions of the program in India, and we need to hear more of the voices of those who have benefited from the programs. And there is a very significant role of the women and men as well in the program. So somewhere there needs to be a gender sensitive programming which is required, where there is a role of men as well as women together. When the children who are getting admitted into the nutrition rehabilitation center, when they are going there, it's not just the responsibility of the mom, it's the responsibility of the whole family. And I would personally urge all the moms, all the dads, everyone in India, Bharat, and in all the tribes. So we need to follow a basic principle of Mere 10 Gaj. In English we say it's my 10 yards, which means we need to take care of our circle of influence. That will help us for the better nutrition outcomes, better health outcomes, better education, as well as it will give the moral support to each other, because health is not just the physical health, it's a state of the physical, mental and spiritual well-being, and not mere absence of disease and infirmity. Many times it happens the data is not corroborated, the data triangulation doesn't happen, and many times there is only quantitative data available or qualitative data available. So it's very important a lot of efforts, a lot of investment should go into creating the data which is more optimum in terms of the availability of data. It's also important the data is basically collected on a very periodic basis. And then there should be corroboration and collaboration between the various data sets. It should be a mix of the data which is already available, you have the HMIS, you have the NFHS. On the top of that, a lot of work is to be done to collect the data which is anthropological data as well as the ethnographic data. So if these data sets are put together, if the triangulations are done, then and if they are used for the programmatic decision making, that will be a big game changer. Secondly, there is SAS programming and other epidemiological data sets like R projections and other things. So if they are all used, then I see the programs will be much robust if we don't see the data, if we don't look into the data for decision making, and we just collect the data, in that will be the, that will not be a very, very good thing to do. So investments will never be able to give you the fullest of the social return on investment. There will be always the investment gaps. So to put a point across to the stakeholders, shareholders, and for the shareholder value creation, that will also be a challenge, like what is the background behind, asking for something in terms of approvals, in terms of getting, things done. Now coming to your next question about the preparedness to the next epidemic, it's super important to be prepared, for the next epidemic. So we need to put the learnings together of various epidemics and pandemics, like you had H1N1, you have MERS, you had SARS, you had Ebola. So there are a lot of global learnings which needs to be put into a repository, and should be shared into the larger discourse, so that the preparedness is there in terms of the preparedness as well as the risk reduction. These are the two strategies. On the top of that, a lot of training, a lot of hand-holding is required for the frontline health workers, for the medical officers, for the nurses and others, because in times of pandemics and in times of epidemics, they do play a very, very significant role. If they are trained enough, if they are trained on time, then there will be less, the case fatality rate, because they will be able to understand the problem well in advance, as well as they will be able to suggest the treatment part, the prevention part. It will also complete the prevent, promote and treat framework. Thank you.
Since we started our work in 1979, the key focus has been as how can we improve child development in India, and one of the critical areas of our work has been nutrition. And I think all of us know that children need nutrition so that they are able to grow to their full potential, to learn well in school, and keeping that in frame on improving nutrition with children in two of the most disadvantaged districts in the country, Nandurbar and Amravati. As part of the strategic positioning of this project basically lies on three pillars. One is how can both Plan India and Reckitt Benckiser drive convergence to the government's ambition of improving nutrition through the Poshan Abhiyan and the 1000 Days Initiative. And from that lens, the project was able to build convergence in the districts with the district key persons, particularly in the ICDS and the public health space. At another level, the strategic thought around on this project which brought convergence was both Plan India and RB believe that rather than start parallel processes, it's more sustainable and important to have the focus on how to boost, how to bolster the government's effort at the district level in the public health domain, but also in the nutrition space. Because in our country, many times families are not aware about what is good health, what are the elements of good health which they need to practice not in their families. Families are also not aware on adequate nutrition, nourishment things, micronutrients that are important for children, for mothers. So from that perspective, boosting health seeking behavior, ensuring that people have the awareness is a very important determinant of success. In this particular project, the Nutrition India project that we are working together with Plan India, Reckitt Benckiser and several other local district level organizations, the focus is how can we bring the correct awareness at two levels. The first, awareness on in the families, in the communities with regards to nutrition and what families can do to build and strengthen nutrition for their children and for pregnant lactating mothers and others in need of nutrition. The second is working with the larger community, with volunteers, community nutrition workers, ashas, Anganwadi workers, and ensuring that they also have updated, correct and latest information and knowledge about nutrition, about micronutrient supplementation, about other important elements which will result in improved health seeking behavior with families. I earlier shared that this project was already accelerating, and we had 1 year of solid work happening in the districts. But then when COVID-19 came, brought disruptions primarily at 3 levels. One was that it kind of restricted the frontline workers, the community nutrition workers' ability to reach out to communities and continue with the awareness generation, the work that was happening on the ground with families, with children. So that got constrained. The second was that within the family itself, now access to nutrition, access to food became a bit of a challenge with lockdown and families, many families losing their daily wages and especially income. So keeping that in frame, we kind of worked 2 important strategies. One was identifying those families who were food stressed and ensure that they receive food packets, food aid, which they desperately needed, so that they would continue with adequate nutrition for themselves and their families. So we were able to provide food aid, which included things which would keep a family's food security ensured for a month. Quite a large number of families were supported with food baskets as part of our mitigation strategy. The second was that how does the frontline worker, the community nutrition workers, the other volunteers and people, how could they continue to do the work that was much needed in these districts. So to that extent, we kind of used different modes, especially we used phone-in, people were reached out through telephones. We used other innovative IEC processes to ensure that people are not just aware about nutrition, but in the process they are also aware about how to keep themselves protected from COVID-19. So awareness generation on COVID-19, also where can they seek support. So reaching out to government facilities, information about government facilities which provide COVID-19 services. So those information were reached out to many families. Also, there were 2 other initiatives that had already started and which we wanted to continue. One was we felt it critically important that the NRCs should continue to function, because that was where the severe acute malnutrition, nourished or malnutrition children who were identified were brought to the NRC for support, and especially where they stayed for 14 days and were able to come up and get back their nutrition status. So the NRC processes, we ensured that those NRCs continued to function. So there was a number of initiatives that we took to ensure that we were able to, as much as possible, not wholly, but as much as possible, mitigate the impact that COVID created. One very important initiative that I would definitely want to kind of highlight at this stage was that while working with the community, with the families and with the frontline workers with whom we have been working, we also thought it important to reach out to the district health facilities and see how we can extend support to them in the fight against COVID. So we were able to provide PPE kits to many of the hospitals who needed that, sanitizers, gloves, masks, which were needed both by frontline health workers when they were reaching out in the community, and also, so overall I think COVID created a disruption, but we were successful in managing, mitigating the disruptions and bringing it down to the minimum, so that the objective, the purpose of the Nutrition India project continues to be achieved in the villages, in the districts, in the blocks, in both Nandurbar and Amravati district. But also I'd like to take the opportunity to express thanks to the consortium partners of the Nutrition India project, and in particular the leadership team of Reckitt Benckiser, who have been very actively engaged at every stage of the project.